One interesting aspect of storage in the AWS cloud is how you get vast amounts of data that you might already have in a data center on premises into the cloud, assuming that that allows you to remain compliant with relevant laws and regulations. So, we're talking about importing large amounts of data into AWS, or even doing the opposite. You might have vast data sets in AWS that you now want to have on premises so you can run export jobs. Now, when we say large amounts of data, we're talking about many, many terabytes, even petabytes worth of data. So, a lot of data. That brings us to the AWS Snow family of services. What is this about? Well, what these are all about are services that deal with physical storage devices that you can copy data to once they're shipped to your location. They're secure with encryption, and then you send them back to an AWS data center where technicians then copy them into an S3 bucket. Of course, that's an import job into the cloud. You can also do the opposite to export data from AWS. So AWS Snow family consists of AWS Snowcone, AWS Snowball, and AWS Snowmobile. Well, let's talk about these in a bit more detail. Starting with AWS Snowcone. AWS Snowcone is a rack-mountable device used for storage. And it comes in a couple of variations, like solid-state drives in the amount of 14 terabytes or hard disk drives in the amount of 8 terabytes. Now, when you get this device shipped to your location, you plug it into your network, you plug it into a power source, and you power it on. Then you unlock it. You can use the AWS Management Console to look at your Snowcone job to get the 29-character unlock code that decrypts the manifest on the device so you can start using it. And then you can copy data to it using an NFS mount point. So you can use this for offline data transfer because it's a physical device you can copy data to. It gets encrypted, you ship it back to a data center. You can also use AWS Data Sync, which is pre-installed on it, essentially so you have a storage device on the edge of your network allowing quick access on your on-premises network environment, but in the end, it's being stored in the cloud. But when you talk about vast amounts of data, that's probably not sufficient if you want to get a lot of data into the cloud because it would take too long, even over the fastest of internet connections. So there's 256-bit encryption for protection of data at rest on Snowcone devices. They also use Trusted Platform Module, or TPM, as an anti-tampering mechanism on the device. And after your data, in the case of an import job, is copied from the Snowcone device into an S3 bucket by an AWS technician, then NIST guidelines are followed for the secure removal of the data from that device, so there are no artifacts left over that might in the future be recovered by somebody else. AWS Snowball is next in line. It has edge compute optimized options. What this means is, aside from doing what Snowcone can do, you have a physical device that you can copy storage, that you can copy files to before you ship them off to an AWS data center. Edge Compute Optimized means it's on your on-premises network edge with the ability to run some kind of compute analysis on data. Now, why would you want to do that? You might want to analyze some data, maybe analyze video. You might want to analyze ingested data that's copied to the Snowball device before it actually gets stored into the cloud to see if it's a worthy candidate. You can also use this as a useful way to have some kind of compute functionality on your data, even if you don't have a connection to the internet into the AWS cloud at that time. And so it uses AWS Lambda functions to do this type of processing. Now, to work with this, you would download the freely available Snowball Edge client to unlock the device once you power it up, and then copy your data to it using either the S3 GUI or an NFS mount point. Of course, using AWS Snowmobile, which was the third service in the Snow family, literally involves large transport trucks with trailers full of storage appliances, and that would be for the largest amounts of data that you want to perhaps get into the AWS cloud, perhaps for a government agency. So working with the Snow family means that in the console, you would create a Snow family job. In our screenshot, note that we have the option when we configure the job to determine if we are importing data into Amazon S3 or exporting data from Amazon S3. If we just want local compute and storage only, perhaps in a disconnected environment, we even have an option to import virtual tapes into the AWS storage gateway. Now, once you go through and configure the job, you will also be specifying shipping information so the device can be shipped to your location in the case of importing data into Amazon S3. And the creation of that job will actually trigger the device to be shipped to your location after you complete it. So you can track the status of a job using the console or even programmatically using the appropriate API. Yet another interesting option here, if you're going to be working with a number of Snow devices, is to use Ops Hub. So this is a GUI, a free download that you can install and run on your Windows, Mac, or Linux host, which will let you manage your Snow family devices on your network, including unlocking them, configuring them, providing drag and drop services for data being copied to devices, and monitoring device metrics so you can track the disk I/O performance on these devices. So you can consider the Snow family suite of options as most often being used for migration of large amounts of data into the AWS cloud. That's not all it's for, but it is common.